Hello, and welcome to part 2 of painting this peony. If you're wondering where part 1 is, it is over on my Patreon, starting at the Sprouts tier and up, so from Sprouts and then Blossoms and Fruit and Flowers, all of them have access to the first part of this video. Just so you know, Sprouts is $7 a month for not just this video, but much else. And I will have that linked in the description of this video. There should also be some way to get that information from my biography as well, but I'm very new to YouTube, so if it isn't there, it's just because I am not tech savvy and I don't know how to put it there. This is actually my second time trying to record this voiceover. I intended to get this done yesterday. It was going to be really close. I'm not even sure that I could have done everything yesterday, but I started recording and I talked for about 12 minutes and then realized I never hit the record button. So unfortunately, I had to wait until today and start the entire thing over again, but it's okay because I really felt like most of what I was saying in those 12 minutes that I did talk ended up being really repetitive of all of the things that I said in the first part, and I do want to kind of talk a little bit about it, about what I said in the first part, but I don't want the whole thing to be repetitive, because for the people who are my patrons, you know, I want them getting more of like the behind the scenes stuff that you guys on YouTube don't get, and want to make it worth their while. So as you can see, this is a peony that I have done the base coat on. I'm going in and adding this purplish paint to it. It's supposed to be like the darkest of the shadows, and I really I loved this color in it. I loved all of the other colors that I ended up working with. This was a really great practice in shadows and how light works, because this is the reference picture that I was using. It's a white flower, but when you really break it down and look at the shadows and the light and the highlights, very little of the actual flower is white, as far as painting it goes. So when I was looking at the reference picture and I saw the shadows, it looked to me like it was kind of purplish. So that's where this color comes in. So it is I don't want to get too far ahead of myself in the video, because I kind of want to stick to what's happening. I will say that the part in front of the middle, the part I'm painting right now actually, I was having a lot of difficulty with that part. That part was what made me the most nervous because of the angle of it, because it's facing the camera, I guess, directly. And it's just really hard to make it look like how I wanted it to look. I also don't normally paint flowers. Part of my name is sunflowers and pomegranates, but even when I go to paint sunflowers, it makes me very nervous. And I know that flowers are a part of nature and they don't have to be perfect, but I can never get flowers to look the way that I want them to, and they just make me very nervous. But I had a lot of fun painting this. Actually, this is my second iteration, I think that's the right word, of this image. The first one, I was doing a sketchbook session slash draw along with me timed sketch with a girl that I'm a patron of. And I had a lot of fun with that. It was the same reference picture, and we could only spend 15 minutes on it. And I really, really loved how it ended up looking, just that 15-minute sketch. There are definitely things about it that I like more than the painting, but I liked it so much that I wanted to spend even more time on it creating a painting, and I'm so glad that I ended up filming what I did, because it was a really, really cool process. I'll go ahead and tell you that the canvas that I used for this was actually a canvas that I had previously painted all black for a piece that I talk about a little bit more in the first video, and then never finished. So it was just this black canvas that I had laying around. This is my favorite size canvas. I think, actually, I'm not even gonna try and guess what the dimensions are. But anyway, it's not too big, it's not too small, it's perfect. I just don't have any canvases of this size right now. The only canvases that I have are bigger ones that I got for Christmas, and I really didn't want to use one of my big canvases for this piece. I wanted to use a smaller one while also not going out and buying a brand new one for this piece, because I hate spending money. So I was looking around my room and I found the canvas that was painted completely black, and actually in the reference picture the background is black, and so I thought that it would end up adding a really cool effect to it. Now, as you can see, the background isn't black, it's blue. It's 3 different kinds of blue. But really it does make a difference, even though you can't see the black, because the very base of it is that black, and it would just look completely different if it was white or any other color. And a little bit by the stem you can see the black coming through, and I think that I left a little bit of the black coming through on the, I'm trying to look at it hanging on my wall. I think I left a little bit of the black coming through, but not a lot. I do end up covering up more than what you can see right here. Okay, now I'm moving on to this very saturated pink. This is in the original picture. There are places in the flower that look very pink, not quite red, but like hot pink, and I was really excited to add these highlights into it. So the next color that I'm adding here is yellow, also that is in the original picture. There are some places in the flower that have very, very yellow highlights. My worry was that it was going to end up being too yellow. When I watch back on this video, at this point I really like what the flower looks like, until I add the yellow. I feel like after I add the yellow is when I started to become unhappy with how the flower looked, and that kind of led me into the rest of what I did for the blossom. Even here I'm trying to make the yellow less yellow by mixing it with more white, but ultimately I did not mix enough white in there. This part that I'm painting right here is the part that I was talking about earlier that I was so nervous about, because it's 2 petals curled up, and because I don't normally paint flowers, I just felt like it was going to be really difficult. This is where that like really vibrant yellow, I'm starting to realize is just too much, and I have made a mistake. Also, just a disclaimer, I don't know why, but whenever I do these voiceovers, I get the like very strong urge, and it's coming now, to yawn. And no matter how many times I yawn, I continually feel like when I'm doing these voiceovers that I can't get the urge to go away. It doesn't matter if I hold it in, it doesn't matter if I actually like let the yawn play out, and I'm not really sure why that is, because as soon as I'm done filming this, I will not yawn again. There's probably some psychological reason for that, but I want to apologize for how many times I'm yawning during this voiceover. That's actually one of the reasons I'm trying not to talk a whole lot, because I don't want to just ramble. If I'm gonna say something, I want to, you know, have something of value to say. And also this video is 43 minutes long, and I don't know that I can talk about this painting for 43 minutes. Especially considering there are some things I'm not saying that I say in the first video. And that's 24 minutes long, so I already feel like some of my material is like off limits. I always struggle, so here I'm mixing my paint, and I always struggle with how much do I leave in, how much film do I leave in of me mixing my paints, because honestly in this video I ended up taking out about 10 to 15 minutes of me trying to mix one color for the stem, and it never worked out. I ended up having to break my own rules and use a pre-mixed paint. I love mixing my own paint, but sometimes I just don't know enough to get the color that I really want. And I don't know. I feel like some people could really enjoy watching me, you know, mix my own paint so that they might be able to learn how to do it themselves. But I also feel like for the general user, watcher, whatever, viewer, that's the word. For the general viewer, 10 to 15 minutes of watching me mix paint would be very tedious and kind of annoying and boring. So there's this video this painting ended up taking me a lot longer than what you're watching, just because I had to edit out so much of just the mixing paint process. So I'm adding in green, which might look a little bit strange to everybody. I'm not really sure. Going back and watching it, it does look a little... Oh my gosh. Sorry. It does look a little bit weird. But I promise, in the reference picture... Now, the reference picture was of a real flower, but in the reference picture, there were definitely some parts that had some green undertones. The issue that I'm realizing here, at this point in the process, is this does not look like a white flower. The process that I tried to go through for the... I'm so sorry, I'm at a loss for words. The process I tried to go through for the lighting and the shading and the shadows failed, I guess. It's definitely not where I want it to be at this point, because right now, at least to me, it looks like a purple, pink, green, and yellow flower. It doesn't look like a white flower. So I'm going back through, I'm trying to add in basically paler shades of the colors that I've already put in, because I love the colors, they're just a little bit too saturated for the end product. And that's basically, I have to go back. I go back over every single color in the blossom, and then I have to go over them again to get them to the point where I was happy with it. And even the end result, I don't know, it kind of looks like a white flower, but you can also still definitely see the individual colors and how they give to the end result. Also, while I'm thinking about it, I will list this playlist in the description. All of it is, well, almost all of it is classical music, but there's quite a bit of just instrumental, and it's a playlist on Spotify called Dark Academia and Royal Core. So here it looks like I'm going back with a lighter purple. Again, just to try to get that lighter feel to it, to make it look like it's a white flower with some shading. You can definitely tell that this is a lighter green than the one before it. It's quite a bit lighter, honestly. I haven't really decided if I'm going to do another painting like this. I found another reference that looks very much like this one, but instead of 1 peony, it's 3. And I really like the reference and feel like doing a painting of it would be really, really cool. Time consuming, but really cool. I just can't decide if I actually want to put the time into it or not. Trying to lighten up that yellow that I put in. I remember at this point in the painting process, I was not happy with how any of it looked. Honestly, it took me a few days to get to the point where I liked the end result. I mean, I was okay with the end result by the time that I finished, but now I'm to the point where I really, really like how it looks. I'm going back through again and lightening up this pink. At this point, I'm grabbing a different brush because I'm realizing that I don't think that I'm going to be able to do what I want to with that thicker brush, and I need a thinner one. I ended up kind of regretting this decision later because I tried to cover some bigger areas with the smaller brush and it ended up being more tedious than it needed to be. It's kind of hard for me to switch brushes. Honestly, I feel like when I'm doing a painting, I try to do the whole thing with one brush if I can, and I only change if I absolutely have to. I don't know if it's just cleanup that I don't like or what, but I don't know if I like to be able to say that I only used one brush for something, because that's a really weird thing to brag about. But I just have a really hard time making myself switch brushes. The biggest piece that I ever did, I definitely used a lot of brushes, but I worked on it for an entire summer. And it would pretty much be like every day I would keep myself to using one brush. So I think at this point I'm going back and lightening up that purple again. I can't really tell. I know that I'm lightening up something because I spent quite a bit of time doing that. I feel like so much of painting is trusting the process paired with realizing when you need to just decide to be done with the project. and that looks different for everybody. And I feel like for every piece, it's different for me. Sometimes it's out of necessity that I stop working on a piece, because if I don't stop working on it, then I'm never going to finish it. And then also just giving yourself grace and realizing you can't, like, your work isn't going to be perfect. It's probably never going to be up to your standards, especially if you're a perfectionist. And you have to be able to know where you are in your art journey and being proud of what you can do right now and realizing your limits. And that's really plays a lot into knowing when to stop on a piece. I think that for this piece, so the previous video was about 25 minutes long, and I definitely edited out some of like the paint mixing and some of the extra stuff that I did to fix mistakes. So it was probably about 30 minutes, and then this one is almost 45 with the 10 to 15 minutes taken out. So I spent well over an hour on this piece, and probably more like an hour and a half or longer. Probably not a lot longer than that though, and I really feel like that's a good amount of time for the piece, for how it ended up looking. But I also lose interest in pieces very quickly, and if I don't finish them in a short amount of time, it's like the longer I spend on it, the higher my expectations for the end result go, and that's not good for anybody. So I try to complete pieces pretty quickly if I can. There have been a few times that I've spent quite a bit of time on a piece and it ended up looking really, really good, and made me want to spend more time on my pieces, but they're few and far between, and I really think that spending about an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours tops on a painting or an illustration is like golden for me. I stay interested in what I'm doing, I can make in the moment decisions, and I can walk away feeling good about the piece most of the time. There I am going over the yellow again, really trying to get it to where it's not white, you can definitely still see the yellow in it, but just lightening it up, making it considerably less yellow. So I think at this point I'm just trying to add a little bit more distinction between the petals, because when I look at it, it kind of just looks like a mess. Colors are, you know, going together. You can tell that it's a flower, but you can't really see like the individual petals. I don't feel that way looking at it through the camera lens, but definitely like in the moment I was thinking this looks like a mess. I need some way to create some distinction between these petals. So I'm just going back through with a very thin line of white paint, kind of that creamish colored paint. I didn't want it to be super noticeable. It's just one of those things that like you have to put time into, and like the detail has to be so good that people don't notice it. That's one of the frustrating and also really cool things about doing art, is that ultimately when something is really good, people don't notice the details, and that's how you know that it's good. When it just looks so natural that people don't question it. So you might not be able to tell a difference between before and after I add these white lines, but as an artist, I can definitely tell a difference, especially on a piece that I had been working on. And I'm fighting the urge to pick that canvas back up, because I can't really tell what it looks like from the camera's perspective, and I work so much better when I'm not leaning over the canvas and I can hold it in my hands and tilt it up. And I also hate when my head peeks into the camera's view. But I also want you guys to be able to see, you know, what I'm doing. And there I go again, picking up that canvas. Thankfully, as I'm watching this, doing the voiceover, I think that this actually gives you guys a better perspective on it. So now I'm going through and trying to get these leaves and stem to be the green that I really want them to be. In the reference picture, it's a very dark green, and it's really pretty. And oh gosh, this is actually where I end up spending a lot of time trying to mix colors to look how I want them to. And I just had a lot of issues. I had a lot of issues with getting the green that I wanted. To this day, I don't know how to get the green that I want. I had so many ideas running through my head. In the reference picture, as you can see on the left side of the first leaf and on the right side of the second leaf, I've drawn a line down the middle, and there's one side that's lighter and one side that's darker. In the reference picture, this is how they showed, or this is how the light source was shown, and there's light and shadow going on. But when I was painting this, and even as I'm looking at it now, that's definitely not what it looks like. And I'm glad that I go back through and end up fixing this. So you can't really see what I'm doing. I am mixing paint here. I did leave a little bit of that in. So I'm finally going back through, trying to get that, the green that I want onto those petals. Realizing that that one side light, one side dark is just not working. Thankfully, this isn't a realism painting. Because if it is, I would probably have a really good base for what I wanted it to end up looking like. But it would also take me quite a bit longer to finish this piece. So I'm adding in a little bit of a leaf on the left-hand side. It is there in the picture. I didn't put it in the sketch that I did, but I think in the sketch that I did, I honestly just didn't see it. So that's actually where I cut out about 10 minutes of me mixing paint. I was starting to worry that somehow it hadn't saved me cutting out that part, since I did keep in so much of the mixing paint. But so I'm going over again these leaves, trying to get the color that I want, and just realizing over and over again that it just is not cutting it. It's not dark enough, and I'm also trying to not add too much blue into it because I don't want them to just fade into the background. I want it to be a very distinct color from the background. So I'm trying to, I feel like at this point, yes, at this point I have off screen, I'm pretty sure this is the point where I'm at. I have off screen taken one of my pre-mixed colors. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I think actually at this point I've just mixed some more green, and I'm trying to get that really dark, that dark green. Once again, trying to do the one side light, one side dark. Moving on to the stem because I can't decide if I like it, if it looks good, or if it really just looks like I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like when I'm narrating this, it sounds like I doubt myself a lot, and I do. But this is actually a very enjoyable and relaxing experience for me, being able to paint these pictures. So here I'm going through and I'm adding little veins into the leaves, and I end up getting rid of them, spoiler alert, because I just think that it ends up taking away from it, and it doesn't look like how I want it to, and I'm not prepared to leave it that way. Sometimes I am, sometimes there's just things on a painting that I can't fix, and I know that I'm not in a place in my art where I can fix it. But I was very determined with these leaves and this stem that I was not going to leave it looking this way, that I wanted to be happy with how it looked and that I could get there. It was just going to take a little bit of time. Okay, so you didn't see, but off camera, I finally took that pre-mixed green and it's on my palette, that little tiny green dot that I'm dipping my brush into, and I'm just putting it over everything that I have already painted, and it's finally starting to look like what I want it to. Also, it's more of, because it's such a cheap paint, it's more translucent, and it's kind of going over and blending with everything that I had already done, and you can't see it here because it's really not close enough on the painting, but it gives it a really cool effect because you can see all of the different shades of green that I put into the leaves and the stem. And I ended up being very happy with how the leaves and the stem look. Like even that tiny little light part, my hand's covering it up right now, on the stem, I was so happy with that because it looks like sometimes when there's a break in a stem or just a part where like the outer I can't think of the word. The outer part of the stem has been like chipped away, like it's been hurt or something, and it looks like that. So this is the finished piece, and I'm really happy with it. And now, before I go, I'm going to sign it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later.